Jason Tatum is one of the most well-rounded players in the league, but he's got a problem. Over this postseason, some people went by the numbers and said that he's not a first All-NBA team player, but others have smartly pointed out that he impacts the game in many other areas. So I decided to go back and see which side I leaned on, and as I was watching Game 2 of the NBA Finals, I noticed something kind of surprising. Take a look.
Celtics looking to take a 2-0 lead. Tatum shut off by Doncic, tries again. Tatum to the rim, shot block. Exceptional. Tatum goes inside, can't get it to fall too strong off the glass.
Deflection and get a steal.
Tatum gets around Doncic, layup, no, too strong off the glass, and Doncic comes the other way.
So he had a hard time making driving layups. Now I thought, okay, some of these are kind of tough, but something felt off. So I went back and looked at all of his driving layups in the playoffs to see if this was a fluke, and what I found was pretty appalling. This is a chart of the best NBA players' driving layup success in the playoffs over the past 10 years, or more importantly, guys with the ball in their hands a lot. We have the driving layup success rate on the x-axis and layup attempts on the y-axis. But here's where Tatum has ranked throughout his career. Not one of the better finishers, but has shown some improvement, especially over the last 2 years. Here's the thing though. In 2024, Tatum shot around 54% on driving layups, which is not bad, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. And it's not like he's just taking a few of these. When you take all of his shots at the rim, 66% of them are from driving layups. Makes sense considering that he has the ball in his hands a lot, so he's going to drive downhill a lot. But this is with the best spacing he will probably ever have, along with one of the easier postseason schedules ever. So it led me down to two different questions. First, why can't Tatum make more layups? Are teams doing something to him, or is it his own downfall? And two, when has he had more success at the rim? When you watch the film, you see something that may sound weird, but has been a constant throughout his career. Teams are looking to force Tatum downhill because they're hoping that he's going to make life harder on himself. One of the first things that you might notice as you're watching these clips is that he tends to go off 1 foot a lot. And when he does that, the biggest problem that I see is he's always having to adjust his body because he's typically getting airborne. And because he's the best player, opposing teams are always going to send help defense, especially when it's at the rim. And so what happens is he gets by that first guy, but then he's having trouble getting by that second defender. When he's trying to get around that second help defender, his body's moving away from the basket even though he's trying to lay it up. Like here when Tatum's on the baseline and after he beats Lively, now Josh Green's coming to help. And as he Euro steps around him, he's on the nearest side of the rim. But as you play this clip further, look at where he ends up. He ends up almost on the opposite side of the basket, and now he has to try to lay it back to his left because he's flailing away. So when he's moving his body like that, he can't take advantage of good opportunities. Here we got Luka as the primary help defender in the paint, but as he drives, he gets by him, but his body's going to his right, and now he's trying to throw it up like a hook shot. So I understand that some of these shots are a little more difficult, but he's also missing these shots when he has open space. Here he spins baseline against Caleb Martin, and then at this point, it looks like he has a wide open baseline dunk. He turns back towards the middle, and now he can't finish that. Tatum had talked about how he was always seeing 2 to 3 guys at the rim, and right now it feels like his focus is to evade each defender, but once he's done that, the next question is, how can he put himself in a good position towards the basket? And you might find it surprising that this issue is actually nothing new for him. Because back in 2018, his boy Kobe, when he was doing those detail episodes, he pointed this out about Tatum. His problem back in 2018 was that when he tried to drive towards the basket, his foot was pointing to the opposite direction of the rim. So he was having trouble being his defender even if he was already in a good position. And I think nothing explains this better than at the end of game 2. Tatum brings the ball up and he beats Derrick Jones. And he looks like he's got a wide open lane. But as he goes up, his body's starting to move out of bounds. So when he goes up, he's got to adjust his body back towards the rim and he can't get high enough to finish it. And here's the thing. If he's going to continue going off 1 foot, he needs to learn how to direct his body to the basket, or he needs to figure out how to get in more one-on-one situations in the paint. When teams know that he's going off 1 foot most of the time, they can better anticipate when to come help. So even if he gets the matchup that he wants, the help defenders could cover for him. And if they could time it up right, Tatum's not going to have enough time to get the ball out to another player. So as good as he's been at getting the ball out to the right player, he's not making his money by passing. So at times in the finals, we saw him really looking for a shot, even if he probably should have gotten rid of the ball. The other main concern that I have is that he starts really far from the basket. And here's why this is a problem. Because by the time Tatum's at the basket, his momentum is starting to go down instead of going up, so he's missing out on good opportunities even more. So we have a really good setup here. We got Derek Lively out on the perimeter, and we have Luka and Kyrie in the paint, so they would have to be the help defenders. But watch what happens. So as Tatum drives past Lively, look at where he starts his layup. His foot is almost at that lower dotted circle, and as he's trying to extend his arm all the way up, his body is starting to come down. And that's not how you usually shoot a layup. Here's another one where he goes at Luka, and this time there's no resistance, but the same exact result. So here's the thing. When teams know that Tatum tends to start a little bit further away, they're going to try to take advantage of that. And so what they try to do, and Miami does a pretty good job of this actually, is they have help defenders come jab at him so that he picks his dribble up early, and now that forces him into two positions that a defense wants him in. One, it either means he can't get airborne, so now he has to play with 2 feet. That's why you see the fadeaway at times. Or two, now he's picking up the ball early and he has to start his drive further out than he might actually want to. Like clear example here. So Ben Shepherd's in the driving gap and he jabs so Tatum picks the ball up, and now he has to try a really, really tough layup. So why does this all even matter? To me, this means one big thing. Jason Tatum is great at getting the advantages that he wants. He's great at getting past that first guy, which creates the reaction that Boston wants. But the problem is, what are we doing once we get that advantage? How are we making sure that we're scoring on these? Before people come at me for saying that it doesn't matter because he won the title, hear me out real quick. Boston's front office has done everything they can to give Tatum as much space as possible to ball out. And the postseason schedule he had this year was lined up perfectly for him to completely dominate, but he had one of his least efficient postseasons of his career. And I think what we learned is that no matter how well everyone on Boston could shoot, defenses are going to sell out to Tatum at the rim, so it's just not going to get easier for him. So then it begs the question, when does Tatum actually have success at the rim? Now, when I mention some of these things, you're going to think I'm a little hypocritical because it's similar to the things that I've knocked him for. But the main thing I want to point out is that he needs to be doing some of these things more. Let's start with the spacing. When Tatum has good spacing and teams are playing a one-on-one, there's almost no chance that they're going to stop him. So that's why they're always bringing 2 guys in the first place. It's not only because it bothers him, but it's because they have to. But there's one crucial factor. He's had way more success when the big man's out at the 3-point line and not near the rim. What I think Boston needs to do in the future is to try to design more plays that help Tatum have the paint open with no big man. Because when someone small like Tyrese Halliburton is trying to contest a Tatum dunk, that's just not going to happen. And what I think Tatum needs to do is to try to be more diligent about keeping certain dudes away from the paint. If he gets to mess with the big man's timing of coming to help on him, that's when he's seeking gold. You see here, he's got TJ McConnell on him, and as he's driving, you're gonna see that same exact move that he couldn't finish on Maxi Kleber earlier. So why is that? First off, Miles Turner's a little too late. But when he's too late, now when he gets around him, look at how much closer he is to the rim. Much more under control and into the paint. We had talked a little bit about how teams can pick up on a certain rhythm when they know he's going airborne, but Tatum can disrupt that. And one of the ways he's disrupted that is with the half spin. When you half spin, that makes a help defender think for a split second that they don't need to come help. That gives Tatum the one-on-one that he wants, and he's able to finish. This one's my favorite. So as he's driving on Doug McDermott, he recognizes that Siakam is coming. So he slows down to get Siakam out of the paint. And now, once Siakam's out, bam, now we can attack. Sometimes a dribble move will help, but the main thing is trying not to play at one speed all the time. The other thing that I wish that he does a little bit more actually is when he's playing with his build. because Tatum has gotten a lot of strength over the past few years. The reality is, when he is getting a switch, especially a smaller dude on him, he is much more under control when he's trying to go through the guy instead of trying to go around. First off, he's not getting airborne, so he can adjust himself a lot better. And two, a lot of dudes just aren't as strong as Tatum. I think when he's making simple plays like that, now all of his momentum is always going towards the rim. So for guys that are defending him, what they're really defending is that pull-up three. Because that's when Tatum's the most deadly, is when he's making that. When they're inviting him to essentially get to the rim, now Tatum's going to get that initial speed burst, and then they have to deal with the strength aspect. It becomes way harder to guard all of that. So to just put things in perspective, it's not like Tatum is completely horrendous at driving layups, but I definitely think that it's one of the last parts of his game that he really needs to hone in on. Yes, he won the championship this year, and he was still by far one of their two best players. But Boston has fully gone in on this team for the next few years, so any major improvement is going to have to come internally. For Boston to continue to stay ahead of the pack, Jason Tatum is going to have to learn how to be more tactical and creative around the rim. Because for the first time, everyone has their target on the Celtics, and specifically Jason Tatum, and teams are building their rosters to target him. So while Jason Tatum is one of the most well-rounded players in the league, his inability to finish at the rim is preventing him from taking that next leap, and I believe would be one of the few factors that would stop Boston from winning multiple championships. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.